Thank you for joining me, Glenora Shipura, on NMH at 1, where we highlight the news making waves in Namibia and beyond, ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports, and economic news. Coming up in this broadcast, new Gciriku Traditional Authority Chief crowned despite High Court order prohibiting the coronation. MHETI Research and Innovation Director presents developments of the satellite tracking station, France to withdraw troops, and ambassador from Niger. Do stay tuned for these stories and more news on NMH at 1. In our midday news update, despite a High Court order which prohibited the coronation of a new chief for the Gciriku Traditional Authority, the faction of Felix Muraguli Mashika on Saturday crowned him as the chief of the tribe. The latest twist to the traditional saga is a result of after another chief hopeful, Botlemus Aruvita Kayoka, who approached the High Court on an urgent basis for an interdict. Kayoka is adamant that he should be the next chief of the tribe following the death of late Chief Kezien Siyambi, who died in November 2019. Now, Visual News highlights local stories from across Namibia. We get right into this after the break. Stay with NMH at 1.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouth-watering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
Getting into our visual news, Director of Research and Innovation in the Ministry of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Lisho Mundia, presents developments of the satellite tracking station. This follows after the Afri-Geo Symposium, which took place from the 18th to the 22nd of September 2023. This video is by Precious Ngitwanapo.
Benefiting from it. Yeah. So the station was actually firstly was founded under an intent letter, which is shown in the video by our founding president when he was then invited by his counterpart. From the intent, then a little work started, which developed into an agreement which was signed then in 2010, I think, or 2011. That agreement expired in 2015. 2017, I was appointed a director. I was told this is the agreement. It's expired. The Chinese wants it, and then we said, well, we are in a win-win relationship, so we need something. And besides the expired agreement that trained a number of Namibians which are operating here, and some are recruited somewhere, we then started opening the center for exhibition, to awareness to school, university students. We actually have one coming now, I think next week. They have to be here. So those are some of the benefits, but for the Chinese, as we speak now, maybe when you come to Windhoek anytime soon, make time. They are busy constructing what we call the satellite ground receiving station in Windhoek. It's the state-of-the-art infrastructure that we will receive, which receives Earth observation data, the one that you experienced at the conference. Yes. We do not have that. I think we are the second, if not the third country to receive that in Africa. So that's a big benefit that we will receive from the Chinese, from that agreement, which also still touched to this. it is. Did I leave anything? Sorry.
I think that's it. You have mentioned the training,
Yes.
you have mentioned the station,
Yes.
those are the major.
We take human resource.
That brings us to the end of our visual news segment. Namibian Sun leads us into the newspaper review segment on the other side of this.
eTicket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
Getting into our newspaper review, starting off with the Namibian Sun's front page that reports that already understaffed schools in the two Kavango regions were dealt a severe blow last week when government announced there is no money to recruit and deploy over 3,000 unemployed teaching graduates in public schools. This decision comes despite a rise in learner enrollments, a situation that has forced teachers to double their workload over the years, with some teachers at times teaching more than 45 learners in a class. The allowable teacher-to-learner ratio in public schools is 1:35. Now, a protracted struggle for the official registration of the Namibia Media Professionals Union continues with no end in sight, reports page 2 of the Namibian Sun. The situation has reportedly cast a dark shadow over the lives of Namibian journalists who report incidents of sexual harassment, intimidation, and low wages. In a statement issued by NAMPU's acting Secretary General Jemima Biekus, the yet-to-be-registered union has already submitted its application for registration to the Labour Commissioner's office in 2020. However, the process has not been finalized. Biekus said with the current status quo, the union has sought assistance from international bodies, including the United Nations Human Rights Council and the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights. Now, moving on to the Republicans' front page, the time has come to be civilly disobedient, says Joris Koeman, the founder of the non-profit organization Net Day Namibia, as quoted. Now, this follows the bang of Namibia's Center for Financial Intelligence, which continues to insist that all non-profit organizations in Namibia must be registered by September 29th and comply with strict declaration measures in relation to their financial affairs. This is so that the FIC can apparently determine whether an organization runs a risk of financing terrorist activities or being used for money laundering. Now, moving on to page 3, the leader of the Landless People's Movement, Bernardus Swartboy, accused the Namdeb Diamond Corporation of insider trading. According to him, former managers of the company are buying obsolete assets which still have the potential to contribute significantly to the economy for an apple and an egg. Swartboy made the allegations during a media conference last week and accused the company of withholding important information of which the government, as its majority shareholder, should be aware of. Now, moving on to the Allgemeine Zeitung's front page, it reports that 39 rhinos have been poached so far in Namibia compared to 92 in 2022 and 50 in 2021. Now, Tourism Minister Bohamba Shifeta presented these figures at the commemoration of World Rhino Day on Friday at Okakuyo in Etosha National Park. At the event, the minister also officially launched a horse anti-poaching unit. A total of 13 horses have been purchased by the ministry for $10,000 Namibian each, with funding support from the Game Product Trust Fund. Now moving on to the Allgemeine Zeitung's page 3, the Ministry of Information and Communications Technology will not extend the deadline for SIM card registration. December 31st is the last day, reports the paper's page 3. The ministry announced this in a press release at the end of last week. We'll be back with more newspaper review after this break.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
We continue with our newspaper review. The Namibian's front page, according to the Namibian's front page, the Ministry of Mines and Energy has asked a Cameroonian lawyer who has been convicted of fraud in the United States to advise and review Namibian petroleum contracts. This decision is seen as the ministry bypassing the office of the Attorney General. The lawyer NJ Ayuk, also known as Jok Ayuk Iyong, is also close to the Equatorial Guinean Finance Minister Gabriel Baga Obiang Lima, who is the son of the country's president Teodoro Obiang Nguema Basogo. Suspended August 26 Logistics Managing Director Salachel Ntinta and Finance Manager Carol Nell are set to know their fate this week over their alleged roles in the disappearance of $2.5 million Namibian from the military-owned company. Sources say the August 26 Logistics Board has been advised to seek civil and criminal action against all those involved, reports the Namibian. Now, according to New Era, desperate farmers who are unable to afford feed, particularly those who live on the outskirts of towns in northern Namibia, are now depending on dump sites. Farmers from the villages have started to take their livestock to the nearest dump sites to feed them cardboard and any other materials to prevent the animals from succumbing to the drought. Some communal farmers have gone to the extent of sharing their rations of mealie meal with their goats. If provisional feeding is not made available, livestock is left to feed on deadly substances such as plastic bags. The Fisheries Observer Agency is navigating financial sustainability challenges as its current funding model has not been updated since 2014. This has led the board to direct management to reduce certain activities, according to the 2023 financial report of FOA, which was made available to New Era yesterday. Now, according to the report, cuts were deemed necessary to align the available funds and ensure the financial stability of the agency. Yet, amid this turbulent fiscal seas, the FOA remains a stalwart guardian of Namibia's natural riches, even as it faces daunting challenges. Now, moving on to Market Watch, the local competition watchdog, the Namibian Competition Commission, says local food prices are not driven by anti-competitive conduct, but are rather driven by other internal and external factors. For the past 10 years, NACC only investigated 2 cases of anti-competitive behavior relating to food prices, taking into consideration that most of the local food retailers are South African franchises. FIN24 recently, the South African Competitive Commission, in a study found that food is more expensive than it should be, due in part to large profit margins among retailers and producers, along with a lack of competition. Namibia's Electricity Control Board has approved Solnam's application to increase its solar power capacity for export to the Southern African power pool. More on this as we get into economic news after the break.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee, and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Getting into our financial indicators, the Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 22.93, against the euro at 19.98, against the US dollar at 18.78. Now, on the selected NSX stock closing prices, all major stock remained the same. Overall index closed at 0.15%. Gold, platinum, and Brent crude oil went down, while copper went up. Brent crude oil trading at 0.32%, going for $93.04 per barrel. Now getting into our economic news, Namibia's Electricity Control Board has approved Solnam's application to increase its solar power capacity for export to the Southern African power pool from 12.2 megawatt peak to 60.65 megawatt peak. The board has also granted approval for any REP's application to supply 25.722 megawatt peak to Dande Precious Metals and Sumep Inceptuous Energy application for 0.9036 megawatts peak of solar power for the University of Namibia's main campus, as well as Paratus Telecom's application to generate 0.9 megawatt peak of solar power for their own use. Now, approval has also been granted to SCA Trading for license to trade and export electricity. However, the board has rejected applications from Windnam Energy, Info Investment, and Terawatt Africa to export power to the SAPP due to limited capacity and restrictions on the amount of power that the network interconnections to Zambia and South Africa can carry. To date, the ECB has granted licenses for the export of a total of 1.2 gigawatt to the SAPP, while the power grid's export capacity is currently only 780 megawatts, according to the ECB's CEO, Robert Kahimise. Namibia's demand for electricity has increased to 700 megawatts. French President Emmanuel Macron announced on Sunday that France will end its military presence in Niger. More details on how exactly this transpired coming up after the break in our news from Africa.
Stock up and save with the best deals at WB. Get 1 liter Vita Creamy for $11.99, 2 liter Nam Milk Omaere for $44.99, 200 gram Top Class Spice Mix for $11.99, 10 kg Hotchfeld Maize for $84.99, plus 2 kg Surf Washing Powder for just $52.99. See more WB specials online at www.vurmanbrock.com. We care.
Getting into our news from Africa, French President Emmanuel Macron announced on Sunday that France will end its military presence in Niger and pull its ambassador out of the country after its democratically elected president was deposed in a coup. The announcement is a significant, if predicted, blow to France's policy in Africa after French troops pulled out of neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso in recent years after coups there. France had stationed thousands of troops in the region at the request of African leaders to fight jihadist groups. France has maintained some 1,500 troops in Niger since the July coup and has repeatedly refused an order by the new junta for its ambassador to leave, saying that France didn't recognize the coup leaders as legitimate Now, tensions between France and Niger, a former French colony, have mounted in recent weeks, and Macron said recently that diplomats were surviving on military rations as they holed up in the embassy. In an interview with France 2 television, Macron said that he spoke on Sunday to ousted President Mohamed Bazoum and told him that France has decided to bring back its ambassador. And in the coming hours, our ambassador and several diplomats will return to France. The junta in August gave France Ambassador Sylvain Ite 48 hours to leave. After the deadline expired without France recalling him, the coup leaders then revoked his diplomatic immunity. The junta is now under sanctions by Western and regional African powers. We'll get into our international news after this short break. Getting into our international news, the speakers of Canada's House of Commons on Sunday apologized for praising an individual at a parliamentary meeting who served in a Nazi unit during World War II. 2 days earlier, Speaker Anthony Rota had recognized 98-year-old Yaroslav Hunka as a Ukrainian hero before the Canadian Parliament. Hunka served in World War II as a member of the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS, according to the Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center, a Jewish human rights group that demanded an apology. Rota, in a statement, took responsibility for what was characterized as an oversight, calling the initiative entirely my own. I have subsequently become aware of more information which causes me to regret my decision, he said, adding his deepest apologies to Jewish communities. The recognition came following a visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who thanked Canada for its assistance in his country's war against Russia. Following Zelensky's remarks, Rota acknowledged Hunka, who was seated in the gallery, praising him for fighting for Ukrainian independence against the Russians. Now, moving on to our next story, passengers were left hanging upside down for almost 30 minutes after an amusement park ride broke down in Ontario, Canada. Footage from TikTok shows the malfunctioning ride inverted with riders still on board as people look on in shock from the ground. The park's maintenance team responded to the incident and managed to bring all passengers down and assist the first aid staff. Local media reported that the two guests complained of chest pains before being released without any need for further medical attention. The ride remains closed and an investigation is now underway. We'll be back with your sports right after the break.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraika. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
Getting into our local sports news, Namibia's senior women's national football team, the Brave Gladiators, defeated the Gambia Scorpions 2-0 in the Women's Africa Cup of Nations match played at the Stade El Abdi Stadium in Casablanca, Morocco on Sunday. Turkish-based Zaneta Coleman scored a brace for her side. The first goal was scored in the 15th minute, whereas the second goal came in the 37th minute. In the first leg played on Thursday, the Gladiators defeated Gambia 3-2. Namibia's 3 goals were scored by Lovisa Mulunga and Yvonne Kuopur. The BDO Namibian Squash Open 2023, the first ever with PSA professional entries from leading African countries, took place at the Wanderers Squash Club over the course of 4 days. The prestigious tournament started last Wednesday, leading up to the finals on Saturday. In the past, Zambians and South Africans were regular entries for the Namibian Open Squash Tournament. Due to the fact that this year's event had PSA status, highly ranked players from Egypt, Kenya, and Nigeria joined for the first time, which was an exciting breakthrough for Namibian squash players and enthusiasts. Now moving on, Windhoek Motor Club's successful M&Z Motor Speed Festival held at the Tony Russ Racetrack last weekend was one of those events that will be fondly remembered by each of the participants and spectators. The visiting drivers from Cape Town and the Ford and Friends Club from South Africa made it an unforgettable competition. Several participants said they had been looking forward to race in Namibia for several years. We'll be getting into your international sports news after this break.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with the entertainment. Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
Getting into our international sports news, Mamelodi Sundowns defeated Kaizer Chiefs 2-1 and 3-2 on aggregate at the Lucas Moripe Stadium on Saturday afternoon to secure a place in the next month's MTN 8 final. This semi-final second leg clash was decided by a brace of goals from Namibian international Peter Shalulile, who netted in both the game's opening seconds and injury time at the end of the first half to see the Brazilians emerge victorious in a heavyweight bout that remained tense throughout. As for the Amakosi, who were given hope by Ashley Dupree's penalty and remained in the contest right to the final whistle, this defeat will be a bitter pill to swallow and further extends their long wait for a return to trophy-winning form. Now moving on, Wales became the first team to reach the Rugby World Cup quarterfinals with a record 40-6 victory on Sunday over helpless Australia, whose hopes of making the knockout stages are all but over. Fly half Gareth Anscobe, an early replacement for the injured Dan Biggar, scored 23 points with a boot in Lyon as scrum half Gareth Davis, centre Nick Tompkins and captain Jack Morgan added the tries to keep Wales top of Pool C. Formula One leader Max Verstappen ran away with the Japanese Grand Prix from pole position on Sunday as his dominant Red Bull team secured the constructors' title for the second year in a row. The victory at Suzuka was the Dutch driver's 13th in 16 races this season and left him on the brink of a third world championship after Mexican teammate Sergio Perez, his closest rival, failed to finish. McLaren's Lando Norris and Australian rookie Oscar Piastri on a Grand Prix podium for the first time finished second and third. Now, after this short break, we'll be getting into your highlights from today's broadcast. Do stay tuned. Getting into our highlights from today's broadcast, French President Emmanuel Macron announced on Sunday that France will end its military presence in Niger and pull its ambassador out of the country after its democratically elected president was deposed in a coup. The Speaker of Canada's House of Commons on Sunday apologized for praising an individual at a parliamentary meeting who served in a Nazi unit during the World War II. Namibia's senior women's national football team, the Brave Gladiators, defeated the Gambia Scorpions 2-0 in the Women's Africa Cup of Nations match played at the Stade El Abdi Stadium in Casablanca, Morocco on Sunday. Those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with NMH at 1. Can check up on the latest news in Namibia. From me, Glenora Shipura, until next time.